Well, a very, very happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is January 12th of 2016, 26. Gosh. And I hope everyone had themselves a wonderful weekend. It was a very entertaining weekend in the world of sports. We especially in the NFL, where most of those games were refined by a point, a possession or two. And I've had a lot of fun. I got a chance to watch a lot of them. I didn't watch Saturday night. I did not have Amazon Prime to watch the Bears and Packers. That was probably one of the games that I missed the most. I'm kind of disappointed, but you know, I got to enjoy the rest of the games. It was a laid back weekend for us, for just the household. We didn't really do much, um, you know, and so I don't know. I had I dedicated my time. I told my wife, I was like, look, I'm gonna watch football. I want to watch all these games. There's 6 games. I want to watch them, and we were given the opportunity to sit down and actually watch all of them, and I was very well entertained by a lot of it. Now, the one thing that I have been struggling with this week is that I've been partaking my fasting, and I understand that this is a private thing that people do in their faith between them and God, that they partake in a 21 day or whatever how long fasting that they bestow, and it helps build your relationship and gives when you get a chance, when you sacrifice or set aside something, a physical need of food, and you go back to prayers and all that fun stuff. So I've been partaking in it. I share it. I like to talk about it because it's been my journey that I've taken since last year. I am so intrigued about learning and seeing the different experiences that people go through in their faith and their relationship to God. And so it's one of those accumulations that I've experienced over this past year that I share with you. And I've dealt with the struggles, or I'm dealing with them right now. And being able to talk about it helps me push through. So, take this little moment or this little opening segment of this show. If you guys are also fasting and maybe finding some struggles with it, that you're not the only one who is going through the struggles. I am too. Now, my fasting isn't more, it's something that fits me, and your fasting may be different for you, and that's okay. Just keep in mind that we're all doing this for the purpose. And one thing that I've learned here in the last couple days is that I'm doing this for my connection and for my beliefs. I'm setting aside food for a majority of my time. I am also giving back, and everything that I do is for somebody else. That is my devotion and dedication to this journey. And as long as you're reminded by that, I think that that alone is inspiring enough to keep it going. So if you're on the verge thinking, hey, I'm going to quit, don't quit. Hang in there. My fasting is not eating until dinner time and having that one meal within a window of time to be able to, and then maybe allow some room in between, on the outskirts of those times, within that time frame, but allow food to be, malnourished in between, but also on the choice spectrum. But anyways, that is my struggles. That's one thing that I've been dealing with here the last couple days. If you guys have a story that you want to share, let me know in the comments below. But we've had a very big sports weekend, and I wanted to focus today around the NFL wildcard weekend that concludes tonight, where the Texans take on the Steelers. And I also want to focus on the WWE Championship match on Friday Night SmackDown. So those are my key conversation pieces on our show here today on today's episode, January 12th. Before we get started, I wanted to share some information wrapping around to Enlighten Studios and their upcoming theater production schedule. They have a upcoming production at the end of February called Grassroots. Well, Grassroots has had experienced some date changes that I want to make sure that gets back out to you, the listeners. If you guys live in the Cincinnati area, Grassroots is a performing arts company that puts on film productions and events and theater productions, which is what they're mainly known for. They have a full calendar year of productions, and we would like you to join and experience these productions firsthand by attending to them. And the first chance to do so is from February 27th through March 8th at the Artsville Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio, where Grassroots is presented by Enlighten Studios, about family, faith, forgiveness, and the courage to face the truth. And this play is set back in the 1950s, where a black family moves into a white neighborhood, and the truth comes out of the neighborhood, and they encounter that. So tickets are still available. The original promotion that we've talked about last week was from February 20th through March 2nd, but now it's been adjusted to February 27th through March 8th. And we just think of this as an opportunity for an extra week of promotion, an extra week of preparation. The fact that all cast and crew members were capable of making that change. And I know it's not a big change, but it's a change, which is empowering. And, we are excited for what this brings us coming up this spring, because it launches 7 other productions, including the return of Dinner with a Few Sides of Drama this fall under the Enlighten Studios production company. So tickets are still available by visiting tickettailor.com. An interesting note on top of that, they've also included, on top of a general admission, which is $25 a person, they've included children admission of $14.25 a person. So it is something that you could bring your kids out. It is educational. It is empowering. It's a message-driven performance, and we are excited to be able to display this among everyone out there available. So if you live in the area, we encourage you to stop by, hang out, check out the performance, let us know what you think, and we want to hear from you. So that's what's going on with Grassroots and Enlighten Studios. Now, they've also just launched last week their podcast channel. It's called Light in the City. It's available on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Deezer, anywhere you get your podcast needs from. It's available to listen to. The podcast name is called Light in the City. And within Light in the City, there's a couple different podcasts providing educational news, events, updates, and whatnot. They have they had the Enlighten Express, which is hosted by me, that covers Enlighten Studios news updates. We got a chance to talk with the cast a little bit, get their excitement and what they are excited for the upcoming production. That's coming up and dropping. That was already dropped today. And so if you guys, wherever you guys are listening to us on, be sure to tune in to that episode and listen to the Enlighten Express, available on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and much more. So Be sure to follow, subscribe, and also, just stay connected with the Enlightened Studios in the area. Would deeply appreciate your support. All right, let's get right down into business because the WWE Championship match on Friday night left some stirring questions that I have, but kept me on the edge of my seat. It was the main event on SmackDown, which, by the way, it's a 3-hour event between Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship in a 3 stages of hell match. First match was a standard one-on-one match where you win by pinfall or submission or disqualification. The second match was a falls count anywhere match where the only way to win is pinfall submission. And if you made it to the third match, it was going to be finished up inside a Hell in a Cell. Now, coming into this match, I asked for the WWE to kind of make a little bit of splash and change and grant either a new title on Raw or a new champion on Raw or a new champion on SmackDown. I was about to give up hope until the ending of this match, which we will reveal in a second. And for those who did not watch the main event of SmackDown this past Friday night, I encourage you to hit pause for a quick moment, go watch the match, and then come back and let's talk about it. Because it really opened my eyes and kind of put some stories together and some speculations out there of how the WWE on SmackDown can move along beyond this point. All I got to say is that we do have a new WWE champion. Drew McIntyre successfully escapes the cage to become the new champion, beating Cody Rhodes 2 out of 3 in this 3 stages of hell. Let's go back to match number 1, where I felt was kind of a quick, fast, not impressed. But Drew wins with a pinfall after the referee was distracted and Drew delivers a low blow. Then Cody, in the Falls Count Anywheres match, pins Drew after delivering Crossroads to McIntyre on the announce table. Now the series is 1-1. We get to the steel cage where things seem to slow down. Both competitors are tired. They're worn out. They just battled throughout the arena, backstage, into the crowd. Couple of spotlight moments. Cody Rhodes jumping off of, one of those walkways that, where you go up the seats and, he onto Drew McIntyre. And so we get to the steel cage moment and we've seen a little bit of everything. People slamming against cages. Both men trying to escape by climbing over the cage. Drew McIntyre was ready to, he called for the referee to open the door. He was ready to escape. Then pops up a person who was in all black, face mask and everything, comes to reveal that it was Jacob Fatu. And he had an aggression with him. And he immediately, this is deer in headlights for Drew McIntyre. He is feared. He's even showing repent as he's backing up, pleading for mercy. Jacob gets in the ring and starts attacking Drew McIntyre. Cody Rhodes notices this attack, grabs Jacob, starts attacking him. And between Cody and Jacob's brawl, this leads towards Drew's escape, therefore winning the WWE champion. Now, in all due respect, if I'm Cody Rhodes, I see, I go through this 3 stages of hell and I'm moments away from losing this title and I see someone in the ring that doesn't belong in this match. Yeah, I'm getting involved. And so the key point of this moment particularly, one is Jacob's Fat Two's return, which let's remind you, he's been out of action since mid-October, where he was attacked by a unanimous person, which then re-sparks the question, who attacked Jacob back in October? And was the result of SmackDown a clear indication of who attacked him? Because on social media, I'm seeing Crossroads, and I think a lot of people are turning the attention to Cody Rhodes. But from what I saw in the match, I didn't quite get that clear image. What I saw was Cody defending the match in general, which led to Drew's successful escape. But to me, that doesn't indicate that Drew or that Cody was the one behind the attack. Maybe this was all for a diversion for Drew to win the title. So that is my question to everyone. Who attacked Jacob Fatu? And to me, it kind of, Jacob Fatu's absence kind of went astray a little bit. I wasn't thinking about him. I wasn't thinking about a possible return. It went astray. I was dead focused on how this match could have ended. Whether or not Drew was going to be a new champion or Cody was going to retain. And I was telling myself that we need a new champion, and here we have it. And throwing Jacob Fatu back in the mix, thankfully he's capable, he's back, and I can't wait to see how they use him because we know what Jacob is all about. We know the style of wrestler, he is and what he's capable of doing in the ring. Now you throw him in the mix between Drew and Cody, and this is a whole nother ball field. We're just weeks away from the Royal Rumble. We're months away from WrestleMania in Las Vegas. And it kind of keeps you now, what's going to happen on Friday night, where we hope to get some sort of answers from somebody for their actions. Now, I've already seen social media clips of Drew McIntyre making statements around the European tour that they're doing after winning the WWE champion. And I got to say congratulations to Drew. I know maybe not a lot of people like it, but I am the one who is also favored for Drew to get this opportunity. I don't know how long it's going to last. Does it last until Friday? Does it go until the Royal Rumble? Does it go to WrestleMania? Does it go beyond that? That's something that as we unfold the Jacob Fatu story now, we would have to see. But the fact that WWE can put the title back on him after all the hard work, after the aggression, after he's finally proven people wrong. And that's what I want to focus on. Proving people wrong. I've heard back in the comments weeks, over the past couple weeks leading up to this matchup, Drew's an afterthought. Drew doesn't belong. He's not a champion. What his title run was said and done. A boo-hoo to Drew McIntyre. Poor baby. He does nothing but complain. Well, guess what? He finally overcame it. And unfortunately had to do at the expense of Jacob Fatu returning and attacking both Drew. By the way, let's not forget that. Let's make sure we highlight that. Jacob Fatu targeted Drew McIntyre at the beginning. Then he targeted Cody Rhodes after Cody got involved and said, Drew, stop, Jacob, stop what you're doing, and we're not going to have any of this. Do you think if Jacob Fatu did not get involved, he was not at the cage, do you think the outcome would have been different? Because to my eyes, Drew was already headed out the ring. He was crawling out, and Cody was still recuperating on the far side end. This shakes things up heading into the road to WrestleMania. It provides intriguing matches and opportunities for talent heading into WrestleMania. And now I'm asking myself early on is who is favored to win the Royal Rumble? We saw, is it going to be from Raw? Is it going to be from SmackDown? Are they going after the WWE or the World Heavyweight Champion? And that's going to be the ultimate question. When it looks like things are tied up right now for the WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre, because I'm sure that Jacob Fatu and Cody Rhodes, Cody's not done. He wants to regain that title, right? Does this lead him to enter that Royal Rumble match and have a three-peat? Or, have a chance to win that Royal Rumble match again and win 3 times? Or is it going to lead to Jacob Fatu saying, I got some unfinished business and I'm going to have to settle at WrestleMania. I'm going to win that Royal Rumble match? Or does it come from Raw? Braun Breaker just lost his opportunity for the World Heavyweight Championship last Monday. But man, that was a very fun turn of events on SmackDown. And it got me watching, it got me thinking, got me going, what is next for SmackDown heading into this calendar year? All right. The NFL wildcard weekend is wrapping up tonight as the Houston Texans take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we've already given you our prediction. I would like to see the Steelers advance, but 5 other games took place starting back on Saturday. I want to run through them and give you my thoughts and opinion. It was close battles through and through. I was impressed by the performance. Very emotional, everything was uptight, and we saw, I don't know whether to say we saw some lackluster performances or were all these games just that, were all these teams just that good, and we had a good class of a wild card weekend. So let's start off with the Rams and the Panthers, where Matthew Stafford delivers the game-winning touchdown pass to beat the Panthers in the late going. The Rams pull off a victory, beating the Panthers 34-31, and Stafford now surpasses Kurt Warner for the most postseason passing yards and completions in Rams history. That's incredible. That's a Hall of Fame for career to me. And, being able to do that, it almost, hey, let's hand deliver you the MVP. The Rams went for a total of 411 yards compared to the Panthers' 333 yards. Matthew Stafford went 24 for 42, threw for 304 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. And I got to be honest with you, the Rams, it didn't look pretty. I'm going to be honest with you, it did not look pretty. It looked pretty good in the first half, the Rams' performance. Second half really got frustrating. They, between Matthew Stafford, keep getting, he's banged up. He struggled in the second half. but he found a way to complete it. Puka has struggled in this for between the first and second half. At the end of the first half, he dropped some really big key plays. Same thing at the beginning of the second half. He was even getting frustrated with himself. And for a moment, there was some doubt in the Rams, side of the field that they were going to lose this game. Both teams made mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. If there's one thing that you take away from the way to win a football game, majority of the time, it's the team who makes the least amount of mistakes. But I will say this: if the Rams play the divisional round, the Rams play the way they did against the Panthers, I don't believe they're going to last much longer. The Panthers came in as underdogs and as I'm going to call it the America's team for the NFC, if not for all of the playoffs. They were the team that you may look back and say, well, they probably did not deserve to make it or worked hard to make it. They're one of the teams that probably didn't belong among the rest of the teams that were in the division, in the playoffs. Yet they made it challenging for the Rams and said, if we're going to lose, you're going to have to earn it. And they did. Bryce Young went 21 for 40 through 264 yards with 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Chuba Hubbard went 13 for 46 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Coker, received 9 catches for 134 yards. The Panthers were right there in the mix. And I think, from my point of view, the Panthers were the least experienced team, and that's the reason why they lost. They had the opportunity to come back and make this interesting. They were down by a field goal. They had to make some corner passes, get down the field. And the one thing that I've learned watching these games this weekend, and they talk about this all the time when you watch these games, in the pocket, you have a full wide spread of the field. When you start moving to right or left outside the pocket, your field vision becomes narrow and your options become very limited. And I saw Bryce Young in the final seconds, and this is a learning curve. It's a learning experience. But I found Bryce Young kind of struggling to stay in the pocket, maybe rushed a few throws, underthrew, overthrew. And through the lack of experience, through the lack of consistency, he showed his weakness. The one thing that we learned from the Rams and from Matthew Stafford particularly is that he's able to pull through, just like a lot of top-tier quarterbacks in the league. You're able to pull through when it matters the most. It doesn't matter for the past 3 quarters what you're able or unable to do. It's about what you do in the final moments, and the Matthew Stafford delivered. So, look, I think the Panthers should keep their head held up high, giving the Rams a run for their money. But this is a learning curve for Carolina. This is a learning curve for Bryce Young. And I think there's a lot of high praises I think Carolina should take away from this game and apply it and only get better and only grow stronger next season. I don't feel like they're too far off from having an NFC South Division title sealed up again next year. But boy, they kicked themselves off to a marvelous start. All right, this was a game that I did not get a chance to watch. It was on Amazon Prime. I was a little disappointed because I really wanted to watch the battle of the Packers and the Bears. But I've heard a lot of great things. I watched a little bit of highlights, and it's astonishing that Caleb Williams and the Bears rallies back from an 18-point deficit to knock off the Packers. And now you got the Packers talking about what's their future hold. The Bears beat the Packers 31-27. Caleb found DJ Moore wide open for the go-ahead touchdown. Reminds you of the same pass that was done 6 weeks ago, when the Bears beat the Packers and split the series when they won at home. Packers went for 421 yards, while the Bears went for a total of 445 yards, Jordan Love went 24 for 46 with 323 yards for 4 touchdowns. Romeo Doubs, 8 receptions for 121 yards with 1 touchdown. But it's Caleb Williams, 24 for 48, 361, 2 touchdowns, and despite 2 interceptions on the radar. This is Chicago's 7th fourth quarter comeback this season. And they are now advanced to the next round. By the way, they are ranked number 2, so they will have a home game. And I say that this is a new sheriff in town. For the fact that the Lions got eliminated from the playoffs, the fact that they upset and they took 2 out of 3 games against the Packers throughout the season and postseason, the Bears are the new sheriffs in the NFC North. You look at the 2 interceptions, and all I see there from Caleb is that this is what a learning quarterback does. They will make mistakes, but they're never counted out. And so I thought it was a funny, I take a crack at these rivalry games and between the Bears and Packers, because, you got the Packers with the foam cheese block on their heads, and you got the Bears with the cheese grater, and you see the celebration, and I say soak it in, because this is something that we don't see the Bears and Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. This is a season that, regardless if you go to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl or not, that you look back on, and could be that start of something very special going on in Chicago. And it's just unfortunate, and I'll just touch brief about it. It's just fortunate that they're one of the teams that are currently in the conversation of up and moving to a different state for a new stadium. And I'm just wondering, well, after everything we're seeing here, why? But, I can't wait. Next week is next week. It resets. And I think we can enjoy it today. We can enjoy it tomorrow. But come Wednesday, we also have to be able to reset our internal clock, our thoughts, as we head into the NFC AFC divisional round. All right, we move over to the Buffalo Bills and Jaguars. So it was game 1 of the 3-game series on Sunday. And all I will say to this is that the Superman carries the team once again. Superman Josh Allen, enduring everything, carries the Bills to an AFC divisional round after beating the Jaguars. The Bills beat the Jaguars 27-24. Buffalo picks up their first postseason road victory in nearly 33 years. And they'll have a chance to do it again, because they will be on a road again as they await for the divisional round. These numbers looked very identical. And one thing that we're taking away from all of this is that the results of these games were by 7 points, by a touchdown at best. And the Bills went for a total of 340 yards, while the Jaguars went for a total of 359 yards. Josh Allen went 28-35. He threw for 273, 1 touchdown. He also scored 2 touchdowns himself. Trevor Lawrence, 18 for 30, 207 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Parker Washington had 7 receptions for 107 yards and 1 touchdown. Let's take a look at Josh Allen, because I think that this is the star of the game. And, I know I wouldn't put him as MVP candidate, but if you want to make an argument for postseason MVP candidates, Allen has to be on that list for what he endured on Sunday. He got banged up early on, and that's never a good thing. I almost felt sorry for him because it didn't seem to end. He ended up in the medical tent twice in the first half. I mean, great. He didn't have any signs of concussions, and I think that's what scares me is because we've seen moments like this where you end up in the medical tent, you're fine, but you end up in medical tent multiple times, and you're still fine. I just ask, are you sure? Because we've seen too many players come back from being in the medical tent, saying that they're fine, being approved that they're fine, and yet we discover later on next week and whatnot that he did have a concussion and he shouldn't have played. But that's not the only impressive part because during the second half, Josh Allen slams his right hand, his throwing hand, into the helmet of right guard Osiris Terrace or Torrance. And we're like, oh no, now it's going to affect his ability to throw. Well, now on top of that, then as he was trying to score a touchdown into the end zone, right, for a 2-yard touchdown run, he awkwardly twisted his ankle and it bent awkwardly. And he grasped his knee and was like, oh, that's it. That's the injury that's going to do things. And he was able to still muster out and stay in the game. And I get it. This is playoffs. It's do or die if you don't have a next week if you don't win. The Bills need Josh Allen to help them in the chances of winning each playoff game. And I get it. You're tired. You're exhausted. You just played 3 months of football. But it's digging deep. It's finding those ways to power through injuries. What are you capable of going through? This is where the real teams that are maybe on their last legs, they push through and they elevate, projecting to the next level. And so you give a lot of credit and you give a lot of attention to Josh Allen, and there's not a quick turnaround. You have to come back and find a way to get healthy enough to stay in the game for next week. And so we'll look at it at the very end, but it was an impressive victory. The second game of the 3-game series yesterday, the 49ers eliminating the Super Bowl defending champs. They're not going to have a repeat like the Chiefs have done. And they're going to have to go back in and figure some things out because I think yesterday's game resembles to the Eagles what their season has kind of been about. Especially the moments like we saw with A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni at the end of the first quarter with A.J. Brown dropping that 3rd and 9 pass, and they get into an altercation. The 49ers beat the Eagles 23-19. Jawan Jennings and to Christian McCaffrey, a highlighted trick play, okay, that I think I was surprised to see it working out the way it did, turned up into a touchdown. It's a similar trick play that the Eagles did at the last year's Super Bowl to beat the Chiefs. And so it's funny, it kind of comes back around in circles because the trick plays that the Eagles did to win a Super Bowl, the trick plays that the Eagles had done on them to be eliminated from the playoffs. The 49ers went for a total of 361 yards, while the Eagles went for a total of 307 yards. Brock Purdy went 18 for 31. He threw for 262 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Christian McCaffrey went 15 for 48 yards. He also went 6 receptions for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 26 for 35, 168 yards and 1 touchdown. 49ers are going to head to Seattle in the divisional round. And we're going to be talking about this because they've split the series just like the Packers and Bears did. And this divisional round it's going there's something about the NFC West that is compelling to talk about, to argue that the NFC West is one of the best divisions in football this season. The Eagles, and we highlighted the interceptions that Brock Purdy made, but the Eagles only had had scored 3 points in the turnovers, and that was made by San Francisco. And some would say that this performance this was a lethargic offensive effort by the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patulu. And so, like I said, the Eagles' season performance overall, I think, reflected in this game and in their loss. I think that this off season, they kind of need to look at things and get everyone on the same page and figure that stuff out before thinking about, hey, we're going to get back to the Super Bowl. I don't have any doubts that they're still a good candidate, if not still my favorite to come out on top of the NFC East. But they got to be able to get beyond those points if they're going to advance in the playoffs. And last year's dynamic of the playoffs in the NFC was completely different than this year's. We do have some unfortunate news that I'll share with you. Back in the first half, George Kittle was carted off the field due to a lower leg injury. It was confirmed that he had received a Achilles injury, which will keep him out for the rest of the season. So the 49ers will head over to Seattle and would have to finish their business without George Kittle. And we wish him a speedy recovery in the offseason. All right, last night's game between the Patriots and the Chargers, it was a dominated defense. Now, given credit, both defenses showed up. They kept it very close throughout the majority of the game. The Patriots pulled away, with a Drake May touchdown in the fourth quarter. The Patriots beat the Chargers 16-3, and I looked at this game and I felt sorry. I felt bad. I felt sorry for Justin Herbert more than I do to Joe Burrow at the moment, because it was play after play after play, especially in the fourth quarter, that Justin Herbert was just getting beaten to death. It was a brutal sight to see. It wasn't embarrassing. It was, you knew that one of the challenges the Chargers had to face was protecting Justin Herbert. We know all throughout the season, and this is why they've struggled, was because Justin Herbert doesn't have a solid offensive line. And there's even plays where I looked back and I saw, all 5 offensive linemen are dealing with somebody, a defender. And we see the halfback that's in there trying to pick up that 6th man. And I don't know if he's probably not tall enough, but he doesn't pick up that defender until it's too late. Let's talk about Milton Williams, who butted head with Vrabel. Man made him bleed at the end of the game. Man, you know, the Patriots saw the weakness in the Chargers. They pointed it out. It was their offensive line. So what did they do? They played man-to-man coverage. Okay, they played head to head, and then they blitzed everyone else. Every play, they sent out 5, 6, even 7 defenders towards Justin Herbert, and it showed. The offense could not keep up. They were gaslighted. They were winded. They were done before they even started. And definitely when you headed into the fourth quarter, when it mattered, the Patriots, the Patriots defense were just annihilating, dominating the Chargers. And look, this is the reason why the Patriots are here. Yes, there was hardly a performance by Drake May. He threw 1 touchdown. He threw an interception. He went 17 for 29, 268 yards. Yeah, he got the ball down the field, but he only put up a scoring drive. When you look at all the other games, this was probably one of the most under offense performance games that we've saw. It wasn't a back and forth shootout. It was a defensive played game, and it came down to which defense was going to break the offense first. And it was a clear sign that the Patriots defense, and I don't know, they found a different light, in the fourth quarter, because it looked like they just started the game with the amount of intensity and aggression and energy that they had in each play at the end of the game just helped prevailed, and they broke down the Chargers offense. This is 2 years, despite 11 wins this season. This is the second year where the Chargers get to the wild card, but they do not win a wild card game, and that's all they get to. So the Chargers are look off season. We know where you need help at, right? So can you add some key players to that offensive line to help Justin Herbert? And boy, if I'm Justin Herbert, I'm out there trying to recruit somebody that can block and can actually stop a defensive front, pass rusher. But this Patriots team looks dangerous. They're ranked number 2, so they're going to remain home as well. Motivation carries on until next week. In the divisional round, we'll see the Seahawks and the Denver Broncos perform this week. We are still waiting for tonight's matchup between the number 5 Houston Texans to taking on the number 4 Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a game that, for Aaron Rodgers, he needs to, it's short, quick. You got to use your experience. You're a veteran. You're a Hall of Famer. You got to be able to use your experience to be able to pick up this win. If you're Aaron Rodgers, if you're Mike Tomlin, you know this game better than this young Houston Texans team. So let me look at the playoffs, because they do have the divisional out. I was waiting for that to happen. We don't have dates yet, or we don't have times. But 2 games are going to be on Saturday. 2 games are going to be on Sunday, I'm presuming. The 2 games, we have 3 of the 4 games decided. We have the Bills at ranked number 6. They're going to be taking on the Broncos, ranked number 1, at Empire Field at Mile High. We have the number 6 49ers taking on the Seahawks, number 1, at Lumen Field. And then the Rams are going to be headed over to Chicago to take on the Bears in Illinois. We are waiting to see who the Patriots are going to face. The Patriots are going to remain home. They will face either the winners of the Texans or the Steelers at home. So hopefully this time tomorrow, we should have dates, times, and locations officially revealed to you. But it was a fun wild card weekend. I think this game tonight on ABC, 8:15 kickoff, is going to be another fun game. And I did not have much fun watching NFL playoff games that I've had this past weekend. We do have the NCAA College Football Playoff Championship game set in stone next Monday night on Martin Luther King's Jr. Day at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida, as number 10 Miami will take on number 1 Indiana for the title. And we will begin preparing for that. Things that I think we're going to probably bring up again at some point. We mentioned George Kittle and, being carted off the field, his injury, possibly out for the remainder of the season. A.J. Brown encounters words with Nick Sirianni. And according to that statement and that asked question after the game, Nick Sirianni just clearly stated that, look, people get heated in the moment, and it was a heated moment. But we've seen encounters where they've confronted each other before in the past. And I think it's mind-boggling that it gets to the point where you have to get, people involved to separate the coaches from the players during a game. And I get it, high stakes, but it's not a good image on your organization because even though, we may never know in detail at length what was being said at that moment. The fact is that it was caught on camera. It was in a gameplay setting. And because we don't have any audio, at least not at the moment, about what was being said, there's no honest answers of how we can go about this other than it doesn't create a positive look, because we've seen this happen before. We've seen encounters before. We've heard stories throughout the season where A.J. Brown has expressed his unhappiness, maybe with his position and his play time or his targeting, all that stuff that falls into play. And so you just can't help but to relate back to that, and that brings negativity to the team, to the organization, and to Nick Sirianni and to A.J. Brown. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something down the road between A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni, maybe a trade, maybe a release or something. I don't know, and I'm just speculating. I wouldn't be surprised to see anything like that. Coming away with some Monday news after the wild card weekend is going to be out of the Green Bay Packers, where they lost to the Chicago Bears. And I think the bigger question is going to now be asked is on the decision of Matt LaFleur after the Packers gave up an 18-point lead to be eliminated from the NFC playoffs. Now, LaFleur's contract expires next season. So they have two options. Either they can extend his contract, or they could part ways either by a trade or a fire. Matt LaFleur is 76-40-1 as a head coach for the Packers, has been to 6 of the 7. He's been to 6 postseasons out of the last 7 years, the 7 years with the organization. He's been in the 7th seed in the last 3 years, and he's only won 1 playoff game. So one of the questions that I think can be shed some light, we've already seen the head coaching positions heat up here, over the past week. But what does the Packers do? As a Packer fan, I want to know, do you guys think about moving on from LaFleur? Because, just like the Ravens, and I can see a lot of similarities to the Ravens, you're a good team, you're a good organization, but your success stops at the wild card. Your success stops at the playoffs. It can't get past to the championship game. It can't get past to the Super Bowl. And you've given it quite some time and you have the talent. Time is running out. When I say time is running out, I mean time is running out with the guys that we have now. And so, with Jordan Love and, Micah Parson, I get, injuries also prevailed in that game that the Packers lost. But still, you've had a comfortable lead. You shouldn't have been able to allow the Bears to come back and pull away from that game. And now the decision holds the future of Matt LaFleur, and maybe it's time for some change. So I'm interested. Packer fans, what do you guys think? Is it time for change? Or are you guys content with where you're at with the head coach? Do you give Matt LaFleur an extension, or do you start finding ways? I mean, you have a little bit of time. I mean, is there someone out there right now available to pick up now as a new head coach? If not, maybe pick him up as a coordinator, thinking that you're going to promote him next season after LaFleur's contract runs out. I don't know. Right? I want to hear from you guys. Monday Night Raw, we will recap tomorrow. That has taken place on Netflix earlier today. Didn't get a chance to watch it just quite yet. And then we'll also recap a little bit more from SmackDown, because we've had some other matches and interesting stories that came through on SmackDown this past Friday, and also our Monday Night Football between the Texans and the Steelers. That is Tuesday. Later on this week, we can expect to do top 25. Probably going to be male wrestlers right now. Top 5 male wrestlers from the WWE. I'll have intent ready for on Wednesday's episode. And we'll have to figure out more. We'll give you a breakdown of Major League Baseball as new updates as arbitration continues unfolding. Alex Bregman signs a 5-year deal with the Chicago Cubs. We will talk about that. But that is all the time I have for you guys on today's episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and for listening. Please be sure to follow us, share our content, reach out and like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube pages. Follow us on our Facebook page, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you guys get your social media at the TNC Sports Talk. Links will be in the descriptions below, so you guys can follow and stay connected. Everything that is going on in the sports world. That is all the time I have. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And until tomorrow, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.